Hi, I'm Marvin Sanders, a product specialist here at Roland. I know you're anxious to get started with the video, but before you do, I just wanted to show you something kind of off the record. If you've got a sequencer or computer that records system-exclusive data, you can save all of your D70 settings in case you want to come back to them after the video is over. I'm going to show you a secret power-up called the Extended Product Mode that allows faster data transfer than the method listed in the manual. To save everything in your D70 via MIDI, start by running a MIDI cable from your D70's MIDI out to your sequencer's MIDI in. Now, hold down the D70's number 5 button and power up. Be sure to keep the button down until the D70 displays this screen. Now, make sure your sequencer's soft through function is off and that quantize is off. Then set up your sequencer to record on one track and start recording. Now, back on the D70, press F1 and then press enter. You can even see the data go by. When the bulk dump is finished, stop your sequencer. If you find your sequencer getting a buffer full or other error message, try two things. First, make sure again that soft through is off. Next, record the sysx data at a slower tempo, say quarter note equals 40. That's all there is to it. To restore the data later, just run a cable from your sequencer's MIDI out to the D70's MIDI in. Set up the D70 to receive the bulk dump by holding down the number 5 button when you power up. Press F2 and then enter. Now just play your sysx dump back from your sequencer into the D70. Okay, it's important to note that whether you're bulk dumping or loading, you'll have to turn the D70 off and then back on again after this operation is finished, or else there's no way to exit the screen. Well, here comes the rest of the video. However, I'll still be popping up occasionally to cover special inside information. Hi, I'm back. The best way to get started with the D70 is to play it. So let's find out how to access some of those great factory sounds.
The D70's unique sound is due in part to its very rich sound architecture. At the top of that architecture are the performances. A performance is a collection of 5 synth parts and a rhythm part, as well as several other parameters for things like the D70's effect settings, MIDI parameters, and keyboard controller functions. Performances are organized into memory locations called user sets. Each user set has 5 performances in it. Any of these performances can be called up instantly by pressing one of the 5 function keys. 10 user sets can be stored in internal RAM, and another 10 can be stored on a D70 RAM card, along with 64 more performances. You can mix both internal and card performances in the same user set. Access different user sets by using the bank or number buttons, or the arrows. Not every D70 performance is stored in one of the user sets, but you can see them all in the performance list. To call up a performance from the performance list, assigning it to a user set location at the same time, from the main play mode display, select the user set location where you want to assign the performance. Press Performance, and then use the bank and number buttons to call up the performance you desire. Press Exit or Play to return to the main display. If you now select a different user set, your new assignment will be lost. To save the new assignment permanently, make sure the Memory Protect switch on the back of the D70 is turned off. Press Right again, and then press Enter. We'll talk more about saving things later on in this video. The sound you hear when you call up a performance is really a single patch, usually the patch assigned to part 1. A patch is a collection of up to 4 individual sounds called tones. These can be mixed together and easily altered through the use of the tone palette sliders, which we'll cover in more detail later on. The 128 patches are arranged in 2 groups of 64 patches each. Most of the patches in Group B are unused, so you've got plenty of free space to save new patches. To call up a patch, press Patch, press the AB button to select a patch group, and then use the bank and number buttons. The patch you select will use the settings of the currently selected performance. This includes the settings of the reverb and chorus effects, which can radically alter the sound of a patch. So it's usually good to call up a performance like D Piano +1 that uses just a straight reverb sound, or even one that uses no effect, so you have a good reference point for playing and listening. Patches, like performances, can also be stored on RAM cards. But in order to access a card patch, you must already have a card performance called up. This is because card patches and internal patches cannot be combined in the same performance. Your D70 comes with 128 tones in RAM arranged in 2 groups of 64, just like the patches. Each tone starts with raw PCM sample data called an original tone, which you can then manipulate with a wide variety of editing parameters, like envelopes, LFOs, and digital filters. To call up a tone, hold down one of the Tone Zone Select buttons and press Tone. This will take you to the tone list. You can select a different tone just by pressing the AB button, bank, and number buttons. At the bottom of the architecture are the original tones, the basic building blocks of sound on the D70. An original tone is raw sample data with no processing whatsoever. To call up an original tone from the main play mode display, press the PCM card button. Buttons F1 and F2 will let you call up the original tones from ROM cards inserted into the D70's ROM card slots. F3 will take you through the D70's 3 internal banks. The page icon tells you that repeatedly pressing the button brings up a different page. You'll notice that Bank 1 consists of the D70's acoustic samples, Bank 2 the synth waveforms, and Bank 3 the drums. The arrow buttons, F4 and F5, help you move between original tones. This method of calling up original tones is just for listening to them quickly and with no processing. In order to actually work with original tones, you must be in Tone Edit. So from the bottom up, the architecture looks like this. You start with an original tone, which is raw PCM sample data. Then process that with filters, envelopes, and LFOs. That's a tone. Combine up to 4 tones together to make a patch. And up to 5 patches and a rhythm setup can be combined into a performance for applications like sequencing. The performance also includes the D70's effect settings, controller assignments, and MIDI information. For live performance applications, 5 performances can be stored in a user set and accessed via the 5 function buttons.
Understanding the D70's sound architecture is crucial to your understanding of the rest of the instrument. You'll get a lot more out of the instrument if every time you play or edit a sound, you know what level you're working on. Along this line, one important concept to tackle early is the keyboard part.
Whenever you call up a performance, the D70's keyboard is automatically set to play one and only one of that performance's 5 parts. It can also be assigned to the rhythm part. So each time you call up a performance, you're really listening to a single patch or rhythm setup. To change the keyboard part, just press the Part button and use F1 and F2 to move from one part to another. The assignment of the keyboard part is saved as part of the performance. Pressing F3 turns the keyboard part off. This is just like turning off the MIDI local control parameter. It disconnects the D70's physical keyboard from its internal sound-generating hardware. One thing to note, when the keyboard part is turned off, you cannot access the tone display screen, the tone palette sliders, or the internal control assignments.